first time in my life I'm truly free to see the clear-cut forest for the poison sea, to see the waters occupy the shores of Jersey, and I feel alive.
Ahoy hoy! Welcome to Calfire Crackpots after a lovely week off. My name is Eris. Today we're going to be talking about urbanization.
Yep, my
How
name's
are you
Declan.
today?
All right. So what's on the itinerary for news?
So, oh boy, news. All right, just gonna go right into that, huh? So, Clarence Thomas has fallen ill. Headline's a little dated because he was just released from the hospital today, but I thought this was a really funny news item because the Supreme Court basically wasn't saying anything about it, and he was in the hospital, and they're like, "We're not going to tell you what he has."
Yeah, we're not going to tell you what he has, but hope the
I'm thinking,
best.
thinking of that meme where it's like in Toy Story where Woody has Buzz's arm, but like Buzz is like in Sid's house, and he's trying to convince Bo Peep that everything's fine. So he's like, "Hey, it's me, Buzz Lightyear. Look at me, I'm fine." It's
that
that, but
sounds
for
that sounds very relevant. Although I've never watched a Toy Story movie, so I couldn't verify.
oh, that's a shame. All right, um, yeah,
And then
Kanjati Brown Jackson, the new Supreme Court nominee, is questioned with why she supports interracial marriage by Lindsey Graham, among others. Um,
that's oh man,
that wasn't like it. That didn't actually happen, but like it was close enough given the hearings. Like it was like, well, why are you supporting people of color in your cases?
there
And
was
it's
that
like,
one. I forget who it was, but someone asked her just to define the word woman, and she's like, "Well, I'm not a biologist. I can't really." Do that. And then the person that asked her the question was just like, "Oh, really? Oh, really?" and acted as if it was like the end of a massive argument.
I love how Tucker Carlson wants to see her LSAT score, and to that Tucker Carlson, it's higher than yours. That's for sure, because she's gotten to Harvard. I don't know about law school. I don't know what law school she went to. Anyway, so that's fun. It looks like that's over. But thanks to a Trump era rule change that was designed to shove Amy Coney Barrett in at the last minute, she'll probably be confirmed along party lines.
Yeah.
So that news item, and then
Everything in the news
yet
about trans
another
athletes.
Republican state legislature pretends to care about the fairness of female sports. You don't care about female sports. Do not pretend for a minute that this legislation isn't about anything having to do with female sports, because it's not. They don't care about fairness. What they care about is taking the rights away of a vulnerable group. That's what fascism is. It's blaming a vulnerable group and taking their rights away progressively. And whatever game you want to play with this, what you're doing by this, even if you did care about the fairness of sports, what Florida, Texas, and now Arizona is doing is to all of the closeted trans kids out there who are looking at everything around them and seeing, something is wrong with me, something so wrong with me that if my parents indulge this, they're not fit to take care of me and I have to go to a foster home. Something so wrong with me that it can't even be taught in school. Something so wrong with me that I can't even play fucking football. And
It's such a subversive way of getting around the issue, and it's just a horrible way to address the idea of gender identity, to not only deny it but also to renounce it fully. And
that
it's
that
just
Onion
disgusting.
headline
Why is
I was
why is
looking
this
at,
the issue that 60, 70, 80 year olds in congressional offices everywhere are deciding is their most important thing to tackle?
yeah, and it's like, dude, the homelessness, the poverty, the suicides of trans kids that you're forcing into it, all of this because you're scared of something, because you don't understand something, because a group of wonderful people who are, although wonderful, very vulnerable, doing this to people just because you either want to demonstrate your superiority over someone or whatever, is sickening. And it goes back to my favorite Bad Religion song, The End of History. and it's at the in the last second of our December. Tell me, how do you want to be remembered? For generosity or a fucking monstrosity? And to you, Greg Abbott, to you, Ron DeSantis, and to you, all of the members of the Arizona state legislature, that's what you're going to be remembered as, because that's what you are. Anyway, moving on. Cities.
Urban
This is
hellscapes.
from lower Wacker Drive, where Santa has done donuts and crashed.
Oh my god.
This picture is as far as I know real. Minus Jerry Seinfeld. But yeah, what do you think about cities?
Oh, personally, I just
Oh
hate
boy.
cities. I
Oh
can't
no.
stand the idea of living in so much concrete and near so many people in such a small space that I would never live in a city. Although, for one thing, it's very energy efficient to have everyone in a place where they can use public transportation and they're incentivized to do
Mm.
so because paying tens of thousands of dollars for a parking space every year is not the most frugal idea.
Tens of thousands of dollars. I love Los Angeles, our favorite car dependent urban hellscape. During the Super Bowl, like the Midas Oil Shop, like Midas Auto Shop, outside of Dodge, I don't know, whatever stadium, was charging multiple thousands of dollars for parking spots.
Oh my god.
Uh,
It's like when the electricity bill went up for all the Texans during the winter, and it just went to tens of thousands of
$17,000.
dollars per
It
kilowatt
was
hour.
$17,000 per kilowatt hour when the
Oh
going
my
rate's
god.
about 9 cents. Yeah, see our Great Lakes 2 episode if you want to hear more about that. But
See, have they fixed that yet?
no.
Oh,
Anyway, we got culture. And this is just going to be Chicago's culture from now on. But first off, this is kind of a weird question, but when is your 18th birthday?
18th, December 1st.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Oh, you
We
suck.
could we could go to Midwest Fur Fest.
I'm not gonna. No. There are many reasons why I don't want to go there.
Do you have any idea how funny it would be though? I will literally find someone else to go. I do not care who I go with. I just want to go with someone because it's going to be so funny.
I'm not. I'm not denying that it isn't funny, but
You're scared you might like it, aren't you?
no, I'm scared I'll get HIV.
You're not going to get it. Just wash your hands. Don't touch
Yeah,
anything.
wash your hands. Don't worry.
Okay, just wash your hands. Don't touch anything, and just don't touch anything. That's kind of
Just don't touch anything. Yeah, you see, or I could
Yeah,
just not go in the building.
I'm surprised they didn't have one last year because everyone's wearing a mask anyway.
I think it's. Oh my god.
Anyway, so we got that to look forward to in the Chicago area. The amount of degeneracy, it was out in Rosemont, so like not in the city, but like there was a good amount of degeneracy resulting from that event.
Of course there
My
is.
favorite story was the last one, Midwest Fur Fest 2019. Someone threw a chlorine gas like canister into one of the convention halls, and they had to be like evacuated, and it was pretty cold winter of 2019, so everyone was just like out in their fursuits like on the streets, and this was the first time um a lot of news reporters were finding out what furries were.
Oh, that's not a good way to find out for them to
So
flood the streets.
there's this clip. Search up like Chicago news what's a furry, because it's this news anchor finding out what a furry is live on air and like asking questions. It's really good. Anyway, you got music festivals too. So this
Oh
is
yeah, the Lala lineup, which is always very mediocre.
shut the fuck up.
They've
Okay.
got your best buddies, the Green Day.
Okay. So I am an absolute simp for Green Day. If they are performing within 300 miles, I'm required by law to go. Um
Didn't you go like a few months ago
yeah.
for the Hell Omega?
Yeah, that was in August. But I will be in attendance at Lollapalooza 2022.
There's like as always, there's 2 or 3 good bands that haven't been to Chicago in a while. Looking mainly at Ash Nico, Polo and Pan. There were a
Oh, you're
few
looking all the way at
others,
the
John
bottom.
Summit and MK. But
I can't.
honestly, not worth the price of one ticket in my opinion.
Wrong. Tizo touchdowns there.
Don't
Oh
you want to see
God,
Lil Baby?
I don't even know who that is.
I
That's
don't
such
know
a
who like
that's such a
95 out of the 100
generic
bands
rapper
are.
name. But I will know who they are for Riot Fest because I'll also be in attendance there. Again, come and find me. I yeah. Besides Metallica and Green Day and like maybe 100 Gex, I don't think I'll be seeing anyone else.
Maybe Charlie XCX?
Oh, you're looking all the way at the bottom.
They'd all the bands that I'm interested in would all have to perform on the same day, and then maybe I'd consider a ticket. But like
It's
knowing
part of the
Lala, they're
experience
gonna
too.
split everything across 4 days. So if you like a genre of music, you have to buy all 4 tickets.
That's how they do it. That's how they get you. It's the because all four of these Metallica, Dua Lipa, I don't know who that is, Lipa, J. Cole and Green Day are going to be on 4 different days.
Yeah, it's just gonna be bullshit.
Yeah, we got the Art Institute. Anyway, all of this is to say that culture's got a lot of people move to cities because there's culture there. It's a lot of people, but you also got disease, you got sewage, trash, and then you also have figurative disease. You got Kensington Avenue in Philadelphia, a frequent subject of recurrence on this episode. And in my opinion, one of the best photos from the summer of Floyd.
Yeah. Oh my god.
That's such a good photo. That actually it was one of the Associated Press's like best photos of the year in 2020, but like that is an amazing photo.
Oh god, the summer of Floyd. What
That
a
was just
time.
such a it was such like a weird time looking back on it. And it was like you'd hear about like downtown like that place getting looted and you'd basically be like, "Oh, well, I guess that happened." And it was just the looting became just so commonplace that you really didn't question it anymore. And a lot of it was rightfully earned anger and there were also like a lot of weird opportunists and then there were like the right wing and left wing groups getting into it. It was just such a weird time. And that's I don't know. And then we're also kind of seeing the snapback of conservatives who are tired of upheaval, as they often are, and just to the point now where they're like, "I'm done with reform," when really not much happened. And I think that's the problem with violence, like violence in civil rights. I think Martin Luther King was right when he said that violence doesn't accomplish anything.
Yeah.
The worst that
It's
you can, the
the
worst that you
violence
can
provides
do.
justification to subvert the cause and even in some cases to protest against it.
Yeah, the worst thing you can do for your civil rights movement is to stoop down to the level of your oppressors. Always. And it's hard because you're angry and rightfully so, but it's always hard to be the bigger person.
Yeah.
Yeah, so gang violence, drugs, when you have all of the people together, all of the good problems, so all the good things are magnified, but all the bad things are magnified too. And then you get into energy. So there's Bill Nye showing us some solar panels.
Yeah.
And then we have this fun graph. It's a relative scale of energy efficiency for cities. And you got North American cities all the way at the bottom, then Australian and European, and then some Asian ones. So Hong Kong just maxes the whole thing.
Makes
Look at
sense. It's
that.
pretty linear to urban density.
And then public enemy number one of Calfire Crackpots after Joe Manchin is Houston, the city of Houston. What's interesting to me is that a lot of the American cities have like the same density.
Yeah, it seems as if well, the thing about American cities is that they're all largely surrounded by suburbs, which are surrounded by farmland, agricultural land, or desert. And instead of building upwards, like some Asian cities are obligated to, like Singapore, you have the ability to build outwards still. So
Oh
suburban
god.
sprawl happens, and the suburbs slowly turn into cities, and the farms slowly turn into suburbs because it's
I hate suburban
cheaper,
sprawl. I
easier.
hate suburban sprawl. That's fair, because, like, you go into a city, a lot of American cities look the same. Like, they definitely don't have the same culture, but, in
Yeah,
terms of
American
types of
cities were
buildings you
built
have, yeah.
relatively incredibly new. So a lot of them have the same sort of urban planning architecture, and some of them that are built even after the 1800s are like, if you look at a map of Chicago, it's very much a grid.
Oh yeah, we love our grid shitty. I'm sorry, city. You can take that both ways. We're the second best in America though, at least in the ones they chose for this.
Yeah, compared
Got
to New York, which makes sense since
because New York has better public transportation.
yeah,
Like they got
the
the
bigger the
MTA and all
city, the
that.
bigger the public transportation, more likely the more money that town city is putting into it.
And this is kind of an older graph, and wood is such a large percentage because this is kind of takes into account the entire world. But when you're in a urban space, you generally are able to use more clean energy because the infrastructure surrounding it's more expensive and it requires a lot more capacity to make feasible. That's why, wood or coal might be easier for like a 100 house town, but in a city you need something bigger. And generally doing one big thing together is more efficient than doing a lot of small things apart.
Yeah. Um, the reason wood is so efficient in rural areas, and the reason why it's, the predominant fuel for most of the developing world, is because you can live in the middle of nowhere, and as long as you live near plants, near trees, you have some sort of organic material to burn your uh, food over. But
Yeah, that's the problem in a lot of the developing world is refugee camps or just villages. A lot of the times the only fuel they have available to cook is wood. And not only does that lend itself to deforestation, um, you know,
yeah,
topsoil erosion, all the problems that come with deforestation, but also smoke inhalation of cooking inside.
smoke
That's why they're,
inhalation is a big risk. I think
yes.
a few million deaths per year are attributed either to the inhalation of smoke indoors from wood burning stoves or from subsequent illnesses like emphysema.
Yeah, and that's why one of the big emphasis right now is on solar cook stoves. That's something I've been working on. Is solar cook stoves, if implemented correctly, usually you have one big one for a village, can not only basically eliminate the need for wood for cooking, but also do away with all of the problems of smoke inhalation, wood collecting, all of that. Just an all around better solution. The one issue is they're kind of capital intensive to install, and if you're trying to install it in a place that has very limited rule of law, that's where it starts to get tricky.
Yeah, you're trying to bring a lot of very valuable materials through an area that might not have the best control of its own.
Yeah, and it's, that's the hard part with charities is focusing things by merit and by need, but also is this just going to go to the people who have the guns?
There's a reason why it's there's a reason why places that are only experiencing some issues improve, but places that are really down in the dumps, like South Sudan, Syria, um, so on, it doesn't actually end up going to civilians. It ends up going to the people on the borders that say, "Oh, we'll take care of it." Yeah,
Yeah,
you don't have to worry about where the money's going. We'll take care of it.
and you need to start in a place where the system is just totally destroyed. You need to start from the most basic echelon of societal organization, which is a respect for personal property and the rule of law. That's step one. If you can't establish that, then you can't really establish anything greater. And that's also where urbanization energy comes in, because if you can't establish the most basic tier of energy, like wood or coal, can't establish anything higher. It's kind of a shitty analogy, but whatever.
Yeah, it's fair.
Um, and then waste. So again, a lot of people producing a lot of waste, but the good thing about having a lot of people together is that you can do efficient things with that waste. San Francisco has one of the best diversion programs for their waste in the world, and 80% of it is put to use somewhere. So whether it's recycled or composted or incinerated for energy, only about 20% of San Francisco's solid waste ends up in a landfill, which is cool as hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's honestly, yeah, it's just if you're in a position where you're having a lot of similar waste, you can do very cool things with it. But if you're in it becomes a lot easier to, burn your waste in a oil drum in your backyard if you're in the middle of nowhere than to do useful things with it.
Hmm.
But so let's put all this into practice then. Let's look at a few cities, how to improve them, and how they're doing. And to do that, I've developed a very sophisticated system. It's called the Multifaceted Interurban Lifestyle Functionality Scale, or MILFS for short.
You'll love to hear it.
And to do that, we're going to be looking at energy sources, crime rate, transportation, car dependence, and long-term sustainability. For a few of the cities, I have this scale of, you have violent crime, and then you have property crime, and then arson, which is both. Anyway, let's get started. So, the Bay Area, as I so often come back to, has okay public transportation. A lot of it's centered on getting people around the loop, which goes from the city to Oakland to San Jose to back up the peninsula. And that's good in practice. I mean, you can't really build a tunnel direct down to like San Francisco to Fremont, like through the bay. It's just more practical to have it go in a loop. So I'll give it like a 6 out of 10 for transportation,
Yeah,
especially since they're investing in electric commuter trains and electric buses.
it
And
does a job.
public transit ridership is actually very good for a city with a population of about uh 800,000, having almost 350,000 daily transit riders. It's cool stuff.
Yeah.
And then, carbon dioxide pollution has gone down. Urban areas is difficult because if someone has a car in an urban area, the demand's going to kind of stay constant unless the city is actively pursuing a way to decar. And we'll get into a few cities that are looking into that. The main thing with cities in reducing direct emissions has to do with making the things that run in the city, like buses and cars, more efficient. You're not really going to do away with the consequences of having so many people in one place. The reason why you have so many people in one place is to make things more efficient. And we get into that ceiling of efficiency, which is how efficient can you make something, or how much carbon dioxide can you eliminate before it becomes impractical.
Yeah, there's always that last 10% of, oh, or we could just make buildings with more windows so that we never have to turn on the lights. And it's just kind of like, really? You're kind of
Like,
grabbing
yeah,
at straws here. Like,
the main, again, we'll keep saying this with climate change in general. The groups that you want to focus on are energy production, manufacturing, waste disposal, transportation, and natural environment. Like, you can't really grasp at straws of I'm going to trying to think of something really stupid. I'm going to replace my hybrid with an electric car.
yeah,
Something like that. It's at what point is it just useless?
at a certain point, you're just going to be kind of driving yourself in circles instead of addressing bigger problems like, hey, wait a minute, aren't there incredibly wasteful forms of fuel that we're still using in other places? Like, how
Yeah.
much of turning my lights off when I leave the room can I do?
Yeah, it gets into personal responsibility. We're going to be talking about the social aspects of climate change pretty soon. I want to do a few on engineering at least. But next city is Denver. We're my my least favorite northern city because the public transportation is somehow worse than Chicago.
It
This is your light rail. This isn't even suburban rail. This is like city center. They somehow managed to be worse than the L. It's
Yeah,
incredible.
they took all the trains and congested them in one very specific area.
It's like this must be really busy because no one's using that. Um, as of 2016, it's gotten a little better. But their energy composition is overwhelmingly coal, about 54%, which is pretty high. But the third highest is wind, which is a lot more than other cities. And hydropower, especially for Denver, is extremely inconsistent because Rocky Mountain snowmelt, especially now, at least on the Front Range, is super inconsistent. So some years you'll have very high hydropower yields, sometimes no. Again, it's about increasing that wind and solar, the stuff that's easy to do, because hydropower is an extremely capital intensive form. And then car dependence. This is actually for Seattle, but it showed Denver in there. So Denver has 90% of families own a car. Sorry, 90% of people own a car. So for every 100 people in Denver, there are 90 cars, which is
That's
it's
ugh.
it's it's not good for by even America's standards. Um, at least in the cities they showed in here, that's the highest. The best is Seattle, where it's only 81. Yeah, it's just crazy to think about how there's almost as many cars as people in America.
It's
Like,
yeah, it's
and they're so ubiquitous. This country is built to serve the automobile, and that's part of the problem is the country's premier economic moment was during the development of the automobile.
yeah. The
Yeah, so
highway is such a key aspect of how everything is done in America that
and it's just
transitioning away from it in any way is nigh impossible.
we're just such a geographically diverse country that individual form of transportation is almost necessitated if people are spread out, coasts, inland cities. If the country looks like this, which very few countries do, probably the only exception I can think of is China, and China does not have the population spread that we do. It's almost everyone's on the coast, so that's the thing that we keep running into with cars, and whether it's making routes between cities have trains or convincing people that they don't need 18 pickup trucks, that's where things get difficult.
Oh man, owning a car is one thing. Owning two cars, whatever, fair enough. Maybe you have a big family. Maybe one of you drives to work and has the car out for most of the day. There is no reason to have three cars. You do not need three
You
cars.
do not need
Unless
three
you have
cars.
9 people in your family, which hardly anyone does, you do not need three
Just do
cars.
what they do in the South and get like a van, get like a big van.
My
Anyway,
neighbor has 4 cars.
why do you need four cars? Like,
I don't know why
like
they need
are
four
they
cars.
like a car guy? Like, so they got like their nice
No,
car? Or are they
there's a
just like
pickup truck with a closed bed, there's a pickup truck with an open bed, and there's a Kia and another Kia.
okay? So it's not like they have like their racing car. Like it's like like hobbies. I generally have like respect for people with hobbies, but like, come on, man, you do not need that many cars if it's not a hobby.
It's oh my god, I don't even know what they do.
We gotta do an investigation. After we go to Midwest for Fest.
One of the cars is double parked all the time, and I don't think I've ever seen it move.
There's always that guy in every suburb. There's always the person with the double parked car that you've never seen move.
No, that car's there year round
Oh, okay.
because they have like a workshop in their oh, that's what he does. I just remembered. The dad does prop and set design for like movies.
Okay, then you need a pickup truck.
You need a pickup truck. Fair enough. Do you need two? If that's your day-to-day car, be my
Honestly,
guest.
yep.
But like
In my perfect utopia, there should be an application process for getting a pickup truck.
not even like a pickup truck, just like straight pipe exhaust cars.
Yep,
Ones
it's
that
like
are like, all right, what's your reason?
what's your job? Are you a contractor? Are you hauling things often? Like, do you Do you actually need this? Is it like not wishfully saying, "Oh, when I go to Home Depot and buy the worst quick read I can like find and like do a terrible job fixing my patio, I want to not call my neighbor."
I think it's certainly a good idea on paper to be like, hey, why do you really need a car that gets 2 miles to the gallon? It'd never fly in America. It
It
just
would never.
wouldn't.
Yeah, that's America, baby. Speaking of the South and speaking of America, I've gotten a lot of flack from no one that we don't cover enough southern cities on this podcast. So I covered a few. Let's see how they do.
Oh,
So first, Dallas Fort Worth. You know, I got halfway through researching Dallas Fort Worth and kind of said, screw it, and decided to bring some other statistics to the table. So, first off, Texas has a higher incarceration rate than every NATO country, almost combined.
oh my God.
840 people per every 100,000 people. That is almost a percent.
Yeah.
In Louisiana, it's over a percent.
How do
1%
you even?
of the population of the state is
Are
in a
Texans
cage.
really just 24 times as violent and belligerent as Icelandic people?
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't know Iceland was part of NATO.
Neither did
I
I.
got I guess we're gonna be having to show Russia why America has such bad healthcare pretty soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see. That's
Guns and butter, baby.
I didn't put it on the news slide, but like it's you don't need us to tell you. The
Yeah.
situation's still fucked. I just can't understand like, why. Like it's at this point it's like I don't I almost don't see how de-escalation could happen easily because it's Russia. It would be Russia admitting defeat like America did in Vietnam. And
It.
I think that the Russians are fundamentally misunderstanding the Ukrainians. It's the Ukrainians aren't fighting to be closer to the West. They're fighting for Ukraine.
I think that given the current tendency of escalation on both sides, it'll probably end up peaking at some sort of um, summit. If I had to guess, some sort of armed invasion, more so than already. Um, given, I mean, there's always the nuclear option. I don't think Biden
I
is
don't
capable of handling a second Cuban Missile Crisis.
and I don't think Putin is off the handle enough. I think Putin is smart. I don't think you become a dictator of a country being stupid. I think that as an intelligent person, he's gonna realize he knows that nuclear war isn't the option, and he's trying to. I think he's bluffing. At least
It's
I
not
hope
an
he's
option for
bluffing.
anyone. It just isn't.
Yeah, at least I hope he's bluffing. And it's weird because you know that off the coast of America, there's Russian nuclear subs, and you know that in the Black Sea there's American nuclear subs. So
Yeah.
it's weird.
That's quite an interesting
Anyway,
spot to be in.
yeah, I honestly think that it's gonna end with Ukraine saying, "Fine, we won't join NATO," and then that'll be the end of it.
Yeah.
But
And then
as far as it's gone so far, I don't see how that could be the end of it. Because like I could have seen like Ukraine seeing all of the soldiers on the border last month and being like, okay, yeah, fine, we won't join NATO. And then Russia being like, yeah, that's what I thought. But at this point, you've already invaded the country. You've already killed thousands of people. Are you too far into it now? Like,
yeah, are you
what's
gonna
your end
call
game?
it, or are you gonna say Gambler's debt and say, well, we've done this much, we may as well finish it?
Yeah, I don't know what they're trying at this point. We'll leave that alone. What we'll talk about right now is Dallas's public transportation, which
Ugh.
it's about as
Is
bad as
that
Denver.
is that wait, one,
One,
two train
two, three,
lines?
four, five.
Oh
Yeah,
no, that is a train line. It's just 2 miles long.
yeah. That's not good. What's also not good is Dallas's poverty rate. The national average is 13.4%, and of course everything's bigger in Texas. So Under the child poverty rate for those under 6 is 35%, 6 to 11, 36%, 12 to 17, 32%, 18 to 59, 19%. Only when we get to the over 85 do they actually start to line up with the national average. And in child well-being, they're ranked 43rd. I think the only states worse than them are like the dirt poor Appalachian ones, which like actually have an excuse.
Mississippi's favorite state is Louisiana because they're the reason that Mississippi is number 49 and not number 50.
No, I thought Mississippi was the worst.
Oh my god, it's one of the two. It doesn't matter. They're both awful.
Mississippi is consistently ranked the worst state in almost every category. Like it's almost incredible how badly they do it.
At least
And
New Orleans.
you
At
want
least
you want to
like
know what the big struggle in Mississippi is right now?
what?
They're running out of prison space. And
Then stop.
that's their largest concern. And
Okay,
this is a quote
like
from a member of the Mississippi State Legislature. I saw it in a news article, but it was, "We don't have enough space to lock up everyone we want to put in jail."
so
And
there's
that's
two
just
options here.
that quote is just so indicative of just not having the slightest idea what's wrong. I don't think that everyone in Mississippi are committing that many crimes.
What do you mean? Don't you think that Mississippians are just that much more violent that oh, the poor Mississippi government is running out of space. They can't handle all of their
Oh
belligerent
no.
people.
Oh no, poor Mississippi. Maybe we should stop ranking 50th in every single category. They're like the only state that's cooling down because of climate change too. It's like one of the only land masses in the world that is experiencing negative temperature anomalies is Mississippi.
It's disgusting. I hate it so
Why
much.
do they get the only good end of the deal anyway? And then I covered one more. No, we did one more. We did Philadelphia first. Um, Again, I always have to have a weird picture that I find every time we cover Philadelphia.
Is that just a man
It's
dressed up
just
as Jesus and a
yeah,
cop questioning him?
yeah. That's what that is. Anyway, Philadelphia has slightly better public transit. SEPTA, again, this only shows light rail, but it doesn't show all the buses. SEPTA does a really good job with buses and especially the Northeast Corridor, yada yada, all that. And then I showed here Philadelphia nuking the Jersey suburbs, as it so often wants to do. And Pennsylvania has the second highest nuclear energy usage. Do you want to know who has the
Huh.
highest?
Yeah, it's interesting how much of the infrastructure in Illinois is based on nuclear energy. I think everyone
Let's
kind
go,
of is
Illinois.
surprised when they see it for the first time.
Let's go, Illinois. Number one. Illinois finally got first in something.
Yeah,
First in
other
something
than
besides declining population.
an amount of former governors incarcerated.
That's incredible. 4 of the last 7 governors. I still can't get over that statistic. That is
It's more than half.
that more than half of our governors have gone to prison, and I'm honestly not that blown away by it because most former governors deserve to be in prison. But like
Yeah.
we just have the stones to put them in jail. So like when you actually look at it, it's like not that bad because like they're getting what they deserve. But like if you look at other governorships, you're like, why are these people in a mansion now?
Oh,
Anyway,
government.
I did one more southern city. Would you like to see which one I did?
Oh yeah, I'm curious.
Mobile, Alabama.
I'm from Mobile, Alabama.
So
Is that from the Top Gear episode where they painted their cars?
yeah, I'll talk about that. Mobile, Alabama, public transportation, so bad. I looked at bike lanes, and there's so little of those that I instead looked at Walmart supercenters, of which there are plenty. Um, Alabama's energy mix is surprisingly good for what I was thinking. They have higher natural gas than coal.
Huh.
That's good for them.
Surprising
Their
amount from nuclear.
their crime rate is well over the national average.
That tracks.
So is their BMI.
That also tracks.
Um, all right. So that Top Gear episode. So what they did is they painted their cars like Hillary for president and like man love rules okay and country western sucks and like NASCAR sucks. And then their challenge was to drive from one end of Alabama to the other without getting killed. Well, they made it to a gas station about an hour in and got pelted with rocks. And they had to scrub their cars of the paint on the side of the highway because they were being chased.
Oh my god.
This was in late
Wasn't this like
2000s.
more? Didn't they feel more in danger than when they drove across the
Okay, so Top
desert?
Gear also drove from Iraq through Syria, through Turkey, through Palestine, and through Israel, through the desert, through people with guns, all that. They've driven through um, South America with people literally demanding, like, sending them death threats because of a discrepancy with their license plate. That's a whole
Oh
nother
my
can of
god.
worms. You didn't hear about that one?
I've heard about all of this, but I'm
Yeah,
just
and then
thinking about it again.
they've they've been through so many dangerous situations, almost getting killed by the crazy stuff they do. And they've said in interviews that this was the moment when they legitimately felt the most scared for their lives. Good
I
job,
saw
Alabama.
in part of the episode they actually get like accosted by people while they're at a gas station and they're like, I'm gonna get at my boys, and like
And they
literally like
did.
a dirty white pickup truck pulls
Like
up and there's
four
like four
shirtless
guys in the
people with
bed.
rat tails, like with like in the same jeans with the brown belt, jump out, and they pull up like a minute and a half later. It was incredible.
Then 2 minutes later than that, it just cuts to all of them scrubbing the messages off the cars because they have to get out.
And it's like they take off their shirts and like dump the Pepsi they had in the back to like help it get off.
Oh my god, it's such a
Man,
good
that's
episode.
incredible. So, as with usual, the South doesn't do it very well.
Yeah, I finally got around to watching that after the last time we talked about it.
It's beautiful. You got to watch the Vietnam Challenge.
I have to. I know.
It's really good. I actually like want to bike from the south to north of Vietnam. Like it's a beautiful country and it's surprisingly safe. The only problem is getting killed like in a traffic death, but like you won't get killed by someone.
Probably not.
And then I did a European city. I did Paris.
That public
That's
transport looks.
that's some public transportation. Those are some concentric circles that are connected to each other. Those are some zigzagging lines. We'd love to see it.
Yeah, not too bad. All you need to do is just not get mugged on it, though.
Yeah,
That's a separate issue.
That's a separate issue. Yeah, I didn't get mugged on the Paris metro.
When I was in Paris, they were filming a car commercial on the street near the apartment that we were in. So, for the most part, that metro station was closed. So we
That's
just kind of
nice.
either ended up walking everywhere or doing a taxi because the
And you
closest
want to
one
know
was like a
what?
3 mile walk.
You could take the metro everywhere. You could. And that's what's so amazing, like about going to a European city, is that you just can take the transit everywhere. You don't have to
That's what we
like
did in London. We never
like
rented a car during our entire time in the UK.
if you're like if you're like going on vacation in like an American city, you need to like get out an Uber, figure out how the bus schedule works, you know, take a billion taxis, get lost. I didn't speak any French. I was able to basically navigate Paris by myself.
Paris is pretty incredible in that. Most of Europe is pretty incredible in that regard. That so much of it just kind of knows enough English to help you out.
Yeah, it's at least in France, their public schools require English as a second language.
Yeah. Some of the people I was there for a wedding, which is why I was ended up in Paris, but like some of the people that I was talking to our age and like even a year or two older spoke fluent English and fluent French, and I asked them like with my broken French just how many years have you been learning language? I have been for like at the time 3, and they were
And
like
then they
12.
answer in perfect English.
They said 12 years. That's from like kindergarten to senior in high school.
Yeah, that's how foreign language needs to be done. It doesn't need to like start in middle school or awkwardly in elementary school. Honestly, so I have family friends who did this with their kid. Um, they speak English, they're not Hispanic at all. Um, but they can both speak Spanish. Um, when their son was born, they just spoke in Spanish at home.
Huh.
And Spanish is going to be that kid's first language.
It's interesting to think
And
about
then
that.
and then because that's what he was exposed to in his crucial language development portion, that in English, if he already knows Spanish as his first language, he's going to grow up and he's going to, learn English naturally. But because he was able to be immersed in Spanish from that young age, he'll know both just fine.
Yeah.
He won't have to do what I'm doing, which is basically like shoving the round block in the square hole of trying to figure out past, present, indicative, imperfect, subjunctive,
Oh, we hate subjunctives.
plural, perfect. Oh my god,
I am doing
you
very,
you
very good
don't
with
you
prepositionals, though.
you don't need to know all the past tenses. You need to know how to use one really well. That's what
I
I'll say
think,
about foreign language.
yeah, foreign language classes also focus on teaching you how to read the language, when in reality, your most important thing is going to be how to speak it. And once you
Absolutely.
get to conversational fluency, all you need to do is learn how to speak at a fluency speed, and whatever vocabulary you need, you'll learn
Yeah.
specifics in whatever field you are.
You'll learn pretty quickly, and especially if you're working with people, you'll learn like slang or idioms pretty quickly. And idioms are hard to learn in a classroom. Like you just can't. Like you need
Idioms
to live
are
it.
tough. You have to be immersed in that.
hmm And then France uses a fair amount of oil, although Paris is planning to completely decar by 2024,
Huh.
which is, in 2 years. Well, not completely, but they're going to stop the sale. So that's good, but they've really leaned heavily into nuclear, which is very impressive
Yeah.
given how like I don't think it's the same in Western Europe, but the distrust of nuclear energy. I think that's more so in Eastern Europe, given Chernobyl or almost Chernobyl 2 last week. Anyway,
Yeah.
that's what I gotta say for that. They've almost completely phased out coal, which is nice. But what it really comes down to is how is Erbia going to function without oil? And I think Paris is really setting the tone for that. It's slowly eliminating cars. And in San Francisco, I'm not going to go back to this slide, but there's this big old park. It's bigger than Central Park in San Francisco that they're completely closing to cars from now on, just because it's better to have the walking space. It's easier.
Yeah.
And reclaiming that walking space and shoving the transportation underground is going to make things a lot better. In fact, before trucks, most freight, like short haul freight, like in the same city, was done in the subway lines. You would just have a train with boxcars going past the train with people in it. And I think
Yeah.
part of that needs to come back too. It's how can we shove the transportation underground so that the above ground can be used for people?
I think
And
I don't remember which episode it was, but you showed a really interesting diagram of like possible layers of underground commerce, where like the lowest one is rail and
oh,
miscellaneous
you're thinking of the
transportation.
one when we were talking about the Saudi Arabia vanity projects,
Oh
where
yeah,
it
the
was
line city. That
where
was
the line city, when it was all of the automated tasks, and the
it's a
automated
horrible
tasks
idea.
was just going to be migrant labor whose passports are like locked in a safe somewhere.
Yeah, it's a horrible idea for a line city, but the idea of having multiple facets of underground travel, including like less desirable things like waste management, is a good idea.
Like the service layer, where it's, you can have waste disposal, you can have deliveries, it's like the back of it's almost built like a mall. They take out the trash through the back, they deliver all of their things through the back. You never see someone carting a trash can out in the floor. The floor is for people. The floor is for people to walk, to hang out, to eat, and that's what it should be in cities.
Yeah.
And fortunately for America, there's not like catacombs everywhere. A lot of the city still remains pretty untunneled, so that could very well be a possibility. And as our cities get older, they can be more efficient, they can be more tunneled, and they can be what it's meant to be, a place for people to live.
Yeah. Right now, it's how do I describe it? It is a place for people to live, but it's congested. It's not actually meant for people to thrive. It's just, oh, you pay a premium to live closer to your place of work. And that's what cities are based off of. But in reality, adding green space and taking care of things like the urban heat island effect could make a real reason to live in cities, which is you have culture and everything is in walking distance and there's a convenience to it. But the thing that drives people away from cities right now, including me, is that you're walking through a city. It's just concrete. But there's a way to deal with that, and it's to encourage the building of green space and to encourage the destruction of things like turnpikes that mar a better view.
Yeah, we'll get into again like green spaces reducing like heat stress and like heat stroke in urban areas again in our social series. But that's something we'll get a lot into. And in terms of, you know, Urbia without oil and urban landscapes, it comes down to finding ways to use less energy and to use that energy that you do use efficiently. So I'll leave that alone. And next, what is the Green New Deal?
Yeah,
It
it's a very
certainly
good
isn't
question.
any of this. This image isn't real, by the way. Just to clear that up. Although you might be forgiven for thinking it is. Um, but this event actually did happen. Joni Ernst did pull up a liberal fantasy island billboard. Um, there was just, you know, they weren't that hilarious. But
Ah, my
yeah,
God.
so we made it to spring break.
Yeah, we're finally here.
We are finally here. I wanted to talk to you about something. So we're in for a world of hell after spring break ends.
In what way?
AP tests.
Yes, we are.
So
I
what do you
think
think about keeping once every 2 weeks until the end of the school year?
once every 2 weeks works, especially through the last week of April and the first 2 weeks of May. That's the cram weeks.
Yeah, I
I don't know about you. I have my tests pretty evenly split across those 2 weeks.
I do not. I have 3 in one day.
That's
It is
yeah.
excessive. Like, and
By
I
definition, it's the most you can have in a day.
oh my god. It's because it's technically 2, but it's actually 3 because it's English and then both physics C. So I have 5 AP tests that are all gonna need to require a lot of studying. So I'm just gonna I'm gonna cry uncle and just say let's do once every 2 weeks until the end of the year.
That works for me. I think
Yes. Yeah, because I do not have time to make slides throughout the week, research and all that. I can do it, but I can do it slowly. And putting in a little every day, I can easily do once every 2 weeks. But once a week is going to be testing it because
yeah.
between recording and then me editing and uploading, that's most of my Sunday. We're recording this on a Friday, which is pretty unusual. Usually it's a Sunday night. Yeah, I'm just gonna have to go ahead and make that decision. So let's do that. Um, anything else?
No, I think that'll be about
Oh,
it.
oh no, I forgot to tell my weird work story.
Oh yeah.
So we're like really understaffed, and we've been training this new mechanic all winter. He's about 30 or so. I don't know how old he is.
Mhm.
Was completely fine yesterday. Nothing out of the ordinary. This morning he sent all of us a rambling text that was like a wall of text basically saying how he just got on a plane to Denver and is going to be living with a friend from now on.
Huh.
and he owes us a couple $1,000s for bikes and things he bought to the shop. And just completely like blocked all of our numbers, and it couldn't have been a grift because he was at the shop for like 5 months.
So what? He just
Up and moved.
Huh. I have to imagine there was something he wasn't being truthful about that caused him to move.
There's something going on. I wish the best for him, but something else is going on. I don't get it. I don't get into that sort of thing. I just thought it was weird.
I think you're down a person now going into the active season, aren't you?
Yeah, we are. Yeah, my boss was asking me to work more days. I'm like, hell no, not until the end of the school year, man. It was the perfect time to get a raise, though.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I'll take that. Yeah, I don't know. Do you want to work at the bike shop?
I can go in and apply, but I will warn you, I'm going to be gone. I mean, hopefully I'm going to be gone for like 4 to 5 weeks in the summer.
Yeah, me too. The strategy that I did was I asked so insanely deep in the winter dead time that my boss was like, yeah, sure. If I asked him now, he would totally say no.
I think that'd be conditional to my hire that
yeah,
like,
that's
I wouldn't
what
know
did
until the
for
week of May
biking last
20th
summer.
whether or not I'd be gone or not.
Interesting.
But I'd have separate ranges of time. Basically, Student Conservation Alliance, yada yada yada. I can tell you later.
Sure.
Yeah, but any shoutouts?
Again, shout out to Ukraine. Stay safe, everyone.
Yeah.
Don't lose hope. That's never
everyone out there. Everyone with family out there.
Yes. All right. Goodbye, everyone.
The point of contention is how they act. Where you draw the line will set you free. The debate is over.